Dark Souls 2. Sorry for the jump scare. A title that'd make most gamers cringe or quiver in fear. The second installment in the franchise, and a game that veered from the formula of its predecessors. Released in 2014 after Dark Souls 1 and running on a different engine, it gave its users a very unique and challenging Souls experience. Loved by a select few and loathed by many, it's the game that splits the fandom down the middle. Our take? We absolutely love it. It's not just the waves of nostalgia or Majula's enchanting setting and atmosphere. It's the fact that, aside from having a, well, questionable PvE, Dark Souls 2 boasted the greatest PvP of any entry because the skill gap between players was blatantly apparent, and mindlessly spamming attacks or rolling like a deranged acrobat wasn't going to save your hide. The fashion expression, usefulness of the offhand weapons, and incredible weapon customization also made it incredibly fun to learn and master. However, despite our adoration for the title, we'd be fools to overlook how it could be absolutely merciless for newcomers.
Oh my god, 30? 30?
Perhaps laying the groundwork for the invasion system to skew more toward hosts in future releases. Don't misunderstand, once you got the hang of it, it was utterly sublime. But mark my words, this game had zero chill. And thanks to the matchmaking system and other features, it was basically hell for baby hosts.
Bye, have a great time.
So let's take a trip down memory lane and dissect what made Dark Souls 2 such a daunting task for countless gamers, shall we?
Hello? Ranni said this is my last chance to host mystery thingy if I don't do it correctly, so let's not make a boo-boo this time. The mystery weapon was the, oh god, it was, right. The inseparable sword. Big congrats to the amazing wire cutters who guessed correctly. Keep your butt on your chair until the end for another, mystery thingy.
Well, was that okay? Do I keep the job?
Yeah, kid, that was fine. Just try to work on your pet names, though.
Before diving into the labyrinthine realm of Dark Souls 2, let's take a moment to appreciate the user-friendly matchmaking system in Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, matchmaking hinges on your level and weapon level. When you're angling for an invasion, you need to hit a specific level range and wield a weapon within a certain upgrade bracket. For instance, imagine you're eyeing folks between level 27 and 53. That means you'll want to clock in at level 30 and wield weapons with no more than 3 levels of upgrade, or just 1 level for somber weapons. Hosts in that range usually sport weapons ranging from +0 to +6. If you tote a +4 weapon, you'll lock out hosts with +0 gear from your invasion party. This tweak was introduced to spare newbies from getting steamrolled by seasoned players sporting maxed out gear and levels. Granted, getting invaded by a max level player was unheard of in any Souls game, even the ancient relics like Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1. But in Dark Souls 2, well, technically speaking, it could happen. Allow me to elucidate. This is Sniffer. You might recognize him from some of our Elden Ring videos. Sniffer has graciously volunteered to dive into the murky waters of Dark Souls 2, and by graciously volunteered, I mean that we forced him to shed some light on its main matchmaking feature, Soul Memory. Soul Memory is a bit like your soul's digital footprint. It's the total sum of all the souls, or runes for you, Elden Ring raviolis, you've collected since the very beginning of your journey. Once you gain those souls, there's no going back. You can't just hit the delete button and wipe your soul memory clean. Nope. It's a one-way street, and it increases with the souls you collect by any means except for retrievals. Your soul memory determines who you get matched up against in multiplayer, and the system works by sorting players into different tiers based on their accumulated souls. There are multiple tiers ranging from 0 to 10k, 10k to 20k and so on. And depending on the multiplayer item you use, you can interact with players in different tiers. Some items let you play with those a few tiers higher or lower. Now this would be fine if it weren't because they didn't really think about the implementation. You see, every time you kick the bucket and shuffle off this mortal coil, you lose all those precious souls you've been hoarding. Of course, you can come back to your bloodstain and retrieve them, but if you bite the dust and fail to recover your souls, those souls still get tallied up in your overall soul memory. Souls that you were not able to spend on anything. No levels, no items, no upgrades. They just sit there mocking you from beyond the grave. Now, if we were talking only about PvE, this wouldn't really matter much. But this is mostly a PvP channel. When it comes to PvP, soul memory is like a ticking time bomb just waiting to explode in your butt. You could be a low-level Kevin just minding your own business in the starting area, but if your soul memory is through the roof, you're practically painting a target on your poop manufacturer for every high-level, min-maxed monstrosity looking to deflower your rose. And that's not all. Every time you perish, you become a little more hollow, chipping away at your maximum HP until you're practically a walking corpse with half of your original maximum HP. And unlike Dark Souls 1, there was no downtime for invasions. You could get invaded at any time, whether the area boss is alive or dead, or if you are human or hollow. So you could be a confused, walking beef jerky, holding on for dear life with a cajillion soul memory, but still level 20, and get invaded by John Darksoul with his high-level, fully optimized PvP build. Even when sitting on the bonfire, because you'd return only to find your souls gone and your equipment broken. So it was not a wise choice to leave your character and go take a dump. And as if that weren't enough, remember those trusty healing flasks you relied on in Dark Souls 1? You could get a total of 10 flasks if you kindled a bonfire. Yeah, forget about it. In Dark Souls 2, you only start with 1. And don't even get me started on the drinking animation. Your enemy has enough time to go prepare themselves a double cheeseburger while they wait for you to finish chugging. The chugging speed could be increased by leveling a stat called adaptability, which is another issue on its own. Adaptability was a stat that increased many different things, but the most important one was agility. Agility would determine how many iframes you had on your roll and backstep animations, which was super important, especially in PvP. Low adaptability would make dodging things incredibly infuriating, while high adaptability would let you pull off cool stuff like this. The problem was that it was not made very clear that agility was responsible for your rolls, so some players would just give up thinking that the game was just like this. Unbelievably infuriating. And I don't blame them. So yes, adaptability is very important.
Oh no.
So every time you see a comment like this one, be sure that this idiot never played PvP in Dark Souls 2. Adaptability aside, soul memory was a feeble attempt at managing the twinking problem Dark Souls 1 had. We have a nice video about that issue which you can check after this one. The problem was that the implementation was so bad that combined with the Dark Souls 2-hole merciless system, it made the early game for newcomers a living nightmare. Considering that weapon matchmaking wasn't a thing and someone with a +0 weapon could be invaded by someone with a +10 weapon, the fact that they even added a ring that prevents you from increasing your soul memory just made twinking even worse. You just can't make this shit up. Of course, the Agape ring would also prevent you from gaining souls, but if your twink build was complete, you didn't really need those souls. It was merely a twinking tool at this point, and it had zero use for regular players. They definitely smoked something pretty powerful before coming up with this one. Despite all the negative things we just said about the game, the truth of the matter is that all of these inconveniences can easily be solved by getting good, something that a lot of individuals certainly don't like to do. And while the PvE was a bit wonky, The PvP was amazing, so if you haven't tried it yet, we invite you to do so. It's a very fun and unique experience, with many mechanics, fantastic fashion, and a build variety only matched by Elden Ring. Just be sure to level adaptability, level vigor, and get yourself a rapier, and you'll most likely have a good first time.
Whoa!
And once you get invested in the PvP, let me tell you, there's no going back. So we hope to see you in the next Return to Drangleic, an event where gamers replay Dark Souls 2 in its entirety for a couple of weeks. I'll be seeing you there, little meatballs. Bye!